all will meet who live and do right. That brings up one point I'd like to make, and that's the point of the role of yoga. Yoga gives you the ways and the means to contact God. How can you be a spiritual example in the highest degree unless you contact God? That's why yoga is so important. I don't mean just certain branches of yoga, but Raja Yoga, which gives you spiritual contact with God, or which develops a spiritual side of you. Yoga is very important, because if you follow yoga left by one as our beloved Master, who had the contact with God, who lived in God, and through whom God flowed so wonderfully, if you follow him, follow the yoga he has left, you too will attain that contact, and then you can do some real good in the world. If God flows through you, his grace descends upon you, he can use you in his own way. But first you have to know him through yoga. Yoga means union. So realize, self-realization has a great part to play, because it has taken and does take ordinary religion out of the realm of ideas, orthodoxy and creed. It gives them the ways and the means to feel God, not as an idea, but as a reality, as something tangible, as his great cosmic sound, his great light, eternal light, and above all, his great love. That's why yoga is so important, because it now gives to the world something that they can utilize to make God not an idea, but a reality within themselves. Having that, then they can take God with them in every action, not as an idea, but as a real, tangible force, the very force of their existence, their very life itself. Yoga is very important because it gives us the ways and the means to contact God. And so finally, radiate the soul's natural exuberance. If we claim our birthright, then that will flow through us naturally of its own accord. And that's what we should be. We are children of God. We have a right to his happiness and bliss. We're made in his image. As our Master and all saints say, he loves us more than we can imagine. So that surely is our birthright, to claim and to have our happiness. If you have this, if you realize that your soul is happiness itself, naturally, you don't have to gain anything. All you have to do is allow it to come forth. If you can realize this, that within you is the natural exuberance and happiness of the soul, then you will naturally expand your happiness from this limited worldly consciousness with its peace of mind and happiness to that unending, eternal bliss of God, real happiness, unending happiness. And I'll close with Master's few words from Metaphysical Meditation, in which he says, as we sang this morning, I am the bubble, make thee the sea. If you feel the natural presence of God within you, that little bubble of ego, of happiness, will expand to the great sea of God's presence. That's what we are. Sometimes you close your eyes, you meditate deeply, especially if you see the light at this point, and if you can penetrate it, you will see around you the great light of God's presence all over. That's what you are. But we think we're this little body, can only look around so much and do so much. That's what we are. That's our natural home, the sea of bliss. Master said, expand your consciousness from the limited bubble of ego to the great sea of God's presence. That's what we are. In meditation you can prove that. If you keep on, if you can penetrate, as Master says, penetrate the spiritual eye into the omniscience of God. Do that. Then you will see yourself not as a little idea of this body, but the great sea of light in God's presence. Isn't that worthwhile? Isn't that worth striving for? If you do that, you will have expanded your consciousness from the little ego to the great sea of God's presence. And finally, from the Metaphysical Meditations, And this is the most wonderful thought which Master has given us in this little book, where it reads as follows: I want no monument on the mountains of human fame. They don't amount to anything. I talked to one of the greatest artists of our time, and I was saying how wonderful it was where you were all over the world and sang this place in that way. She says, forget it. It's nothing. But what I feel of the presence of God is reality. Now, that's from one of the greatest. So Master says, I want no monuments on the mountains of human fame. I want secretly to remain in the caves of divine love, in God-tuned souls, and silently to serve them with invisible thought of helpfulness. What a humbleness! What a beauty! What a replica of God's great love and His light and His bliss.
In order to profit from these practical teachings in a meaningful way, which will have a definite and tangible impact in your life, we suggest that you subscribe to the Self-Realization Fellowship's home study course on the science of yoga. Please visit the SRF on the web at yogananda-srf.org or call the SRF's Mother Center in Los Angeles, California at 323-225-2471.